Hi everyone! In a previous video, I was talking a little bit about my problems with authority and power, giving you an introduction to my problems about authority and power. If you've missed that video, please make sure to go back and watch that before you watch this one, because in that one, I am really giving you my very deep ambivalence about this idea, what I hate about it with my whole being, and also my deep intuition that maybe what's bad about authority and power is not authority and power per se, but how we choose to use it. So in today's video, I am choosing to sit in the middle ground, or as you would say in one of my native languages, between two stools on the ground. And I want to give you an alternative narrative about how to think about authority and power. And that's not really an easy place to be right now, because if you turn on the TV or just go on social media, you will realize that you will either have one part that says that is all about authority, all about power, all about dominating everybody else, or you have the alternative, which is a response, a reaction to this first one, which is all about putting everything equal and nobody has power and nobody has authority over somebody else or something else, because that will lead to very, very sick consequences. So if you remember in my previous video, I used to work with the definitions of power being an ability that we have in us, a force, a source of energy, an ability, and authority being a right to exercise that power over ourselves, or also over others, to command feelings, thoughts, and behaviors. And I also made a scheme about the one up and the one down positions, where someone in authority has power over someone else or something else, and the way to relate to power is submission or rebellion. Now, here are the two narratives that I am seeing working out in the world today, and here is the third one that I want to represent in this video. So the one narrative, let's call it the right narrative, is power is a tool, it's something good, and people in power use it to dominate those who are in need of power or domination. This usually comes with the narrative of those who are in charge know better, and those who are submitted are anyways in a disadvantaged position, so who are they to decide for themselves? This plays on many, many levels: the political, the societal, in the job, when you're an employee versus an employer, parents and children, teachers and students, and so on. And the other narrative, let's call it the left narrative, is that what we see from how this power is used is that it's all has very, very negative consequences. So it must be that power and authority are per se something that is not good, that is bad. We have to abolish it, because nobody needs to be dominated and nobody needs to have their decisions taken for them. So the narrative that I want to say is that authority and power are something that per se are good things, and nobody needs to be dominated, and people can make decisions for themselves. So here are three things that I like to keep in mind when I'm thinking like this. First one, I have to always remind myself and that my feelings about authority and power come from having seen authority and power being abused, and to remember that authority and power are good things to be used in good ways. So this is how I'm integrating my feelings. I realize that whenever I experienced abuse of power, it created a wound in my soul. And that wound is speaking through my feelings. And my choice, and I think the healthy choice, is to listen to those feelings, to sit with those feelings, to accept the wrong that has been done by verbalizing or expressing these feelings in whichever way one finds suitable. And if this is where you're at, I want to tell you that's okay. That's great. Sit with your feelings, make sure that you get to a place of total acceptance of your feelings and your reactions to what has been done to you in whichever kind of situation. But, and this is where I integrate my thought processes and what I'm seeing also working at this world, that authority, if it has this huge power to destroy, then it must be that it has a huge power to create as well. So I have to keep remembering, and this is a very important word, remembering, because we have the power to create reality through our thoughts. And if we feed it with just certain types of thoughts, then that will be how we will view reality and create reality around ourselves. So I'm training myself to remember that even though we might experience many abuses of power, power per se is not a bad thing. Because if it has the power to destroy, it has the power to create. My first point is remember that authority and power are good things to be used in good ways. To the second point, if power is good and it is used properly in a good way, then it means that it is life affirming. Authority and power on the one side, and submission and receiving and growing on the other side, are a very basic dynamic of our human lives. And I think this is a deeply spiritual insight into how we work. I talked in my last video about how I submit to the authority of people who have studied the subject before I studied it. And I open myself up to receive those teachings that these people have, because I want to grow and develop as a person. But by far, the most clear example upon which authority and power are something that are life affirming and life giving is by the example of parents and children. Think about it. No matter what kind of parental style we adopt, we, at the beginning of the life of our children, will make decisions for them, will play a role of authority over the life. And this role will either enable them to grow up and be empowered to take on also roles of power and authority for themselves, or it will cripple them and give them the illusion that they are nothing more than dependent creatures. And I see this dynamic really working out on many, many levels of life. And this is how I see it as a deeply spiritual insight, that it underlies our deep human interconnectedness and interdependence. Because for some reason, we all have in our own lives different roles of authority and submission. We might have authority over our children, but we have to submit to our employers. And in that, we as caregivers have to use our authority to do what's best for our children, so that our children will develop to trust us. And we as employees have to trust that our authority figures are doing the best, what is best for us as well. And in that sense, we all get to play both roles, and we all get to take this taste out of this deeply human experience of how we are dependent on each other. If you think about it, every time that you help someone, you are exercising your power and authority. Every time that you ask for a favor from someone or a support from someone, you are exercising your deep human need to depend on someone else, on helping you. And this is why I see the whole idea of power and authority and submission and receiving and developing and growing as this very deeply human spiritual experiences that help us both develop in trust, in dependence on others, but also in taking responsibility and in positions of power doing what's best for others rather than only what's best for us. And I think our society today is so deeply uncomfortable with the idea of dependence, and we see that by this alienation when we don't want to depend on each other to ask for help, to ask for support, or to take responsibility when someone is dependent on us, in whichever situation that is. So the second point is that the opposite of abuse is life affirmation. And the idea of a leadership, of an authority that exercises power in this life affirming, a life giving, and empowering way inspires me. Because I know that no man is an island of itself. Just in the realm of knowledge, we will never be able to assemble all the things that we need to know by ourselves. We are always dependent on what others have done before us. Scientists today are able to do so many great discoveries because the most basic discoveries have already been made, and so on. So if I think about life like this, that there's this maze of interconnectedness where maybe I'm someone who has studied, theology and psychology, and I can give you my 2 cents on these ideas. But you who have studied fashion and marketing or are talking about finances, I'm depending on your authority and on your know-how so that I can make the best decisions in my life in these areas. So thank you so much. And I hope I can give this back. So this is how this idea truly, truly inspires me. It makes me feel filled with energy and joy. Even though I see so much corruption, I have hope for finding the form of true power and true authority that is free from this corruption. And here's the third point, a spiritual principle that helps me be a part of this deep interconnectedness that we call life, and that is reflecting on my roles in my life, in where am I an authority and where am I someone who is under authority, and asking myself, where did authority abuse me? Because it happened more than once, more than on one level. Where am I in a position of authority, and am I abusing those who are depending on me? Very, very important question, right? And how do I feel myself in these different roles? Basically, this is how I got to understand that I have this huge deep-seated difficulty with authority because of my experiences. But this is also how I got to realize what are the good examples of authority in my life and what I see in the world. So this is also something that you can do. Just take some time and ask yourself, where have I been abused of by those who had power over me? And allow yourself to feel those feelings. Look for help to be able to experience those feelings and find healing from these experiences. And also ask yourself, where did I live a situation where someone who had power and I allowed them to have power over me helped me heal? Right at this moment, Good Will Hunting, the movie, comes to mind, where Will Hunting is a guy who has experienced so much abuse and bad things in his life, and everybody just leaves him be because nobody wants to take responsibility over him. But then this therapist comes into the scene, who's portrayed by Robin Williams, and this kind of authority figure takes responsibility over him. Watch that movie, watch those scenes, and look how real authority looks like. It's not the coming from above and telling you what you have to do kind of type. It's the type that knows where the hardships lie for this young man and also for us, and knows how to hold him so he can get to a place of liberation. So if I would have just one advice to give all of you, if you would accept my authority on this, is to get in touch with your deeper feelings about authority, whether you are in a position of authority or not. Get in touch of how it makes you feel. Ask yourself where that comes from, and give yourself time to heal from that. And then look for places where you can also recover a real idea of what true authority is, because it is really something that's life-giving. And I, for one, don't want to give up on that just because so many have done it wrong. And if you've done that, or if you're doing that, or if you're planning to do that, leave me your comments about how it's working out for you. I am so curious if you can resonate with my experience. I would love for you to share your experiences with me as well, because I'm kind of curious how it works out. And if you like this kind of topics, if you like this kind of contents, then make sure you subscribe to my channel and leave me a message with where you want this channel to go, so you can have a say on what kind of topics you want to hear more about and what kind of topics you want to hear less about. Alright, so until those next topics come along, take very, very good take of yourselves, guys, and see you next time. Bye!